Ready? Okay, I'm going to share my. All right. Can you all see my PowerPoint? Okay. Okay, so I'm Jenny. I'm a career counselor, like we kind of already covered. And we were asked to do this presentation about, what we do in the Career Services Center and how we can be of service to you, and also to kind of cover the differences between academic counseling and career counseling. And I got to say, I have a lot to cover in a short amount of time. I'm going to try not to talk too fast because then it's pointless. Yeah. If you can't absorb it, then there's no point. So I will try to get through it and hopefully have a little time at the end for questions. All right. So like I said, I'm a career counselor. I specialize in health and wellness. I also see all majors. I think Joan wanted to step in here and introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Joan Kang. I'm one of the Senior Career Services Advisors, also in the Career Services Center. I do specialize in majors that are related to STEM and health and wellness, but if you fall in any other major or you want to recommend students, feel free to recommend them. I also work with all majors like Jenny.
All right. And we have a colleague named Gohar who works with students in the STEM area of interest. So there is some overlap between health and wellness and STEM, which can be kind of confusing. So I am going to talk about that a little bit later. So Gohar does a great job with STEM. I highly recommend her, as well as Joan, all three of us together, a great team. And Gohar also sees all majors. So a little bit about what is the difference between academic counseling and career counseling. So for academic counselors, the primary difference is that academic counselors focus on academic planning. Now, I don't want to limit them and say that that's all they do, because that's not true, but it is their responsibility to make sure that you have an education plan. So that's a lot of time spent on working on an ed plan, helping you complete your degree requirements and get ready to transfer, if you want to transfer. So because that is a big responsibility, they may not be able to talk about, things like career counseling, even if they have the skills to do so. In the Career Services Center, we have the time to really focus on career planning, and that involves learning about yourself, choosing your major and your career, and then also gaining experience is a big part of it. We have a lot of employment services, which we'll talk about in detail later. And we also have an internship program. So this was a very brief overview of what we do, but just remember, we focused on the career planning part. And I'll get into more detail. And also, I just wanted to do a little shout out. We do have health sciences counselors. They specifically focus on health sciences. But if you're new, if you're at the beginning of your path here, you really can see any academic counselor. So students in health and wellness can see any academic counselor, and they probably will start you in on a general studies associate degree because it aligns so well with the requirements for nursing and RT or RC specifically. And one thing, hopefully they're going to guide you to do is to take Bio 2 before you take anatomy. That's a big conversation right now. We know that anatomy is a challenging class, and people do better if they take Bio 2 first. That's not always clear, so I just wanted to spread the word on that. That's a little academic advising tip for you. But our health sciences counselors do recommend that you attend a nursing info session or a respiratory care program session if you are considering these majors. And then you can meet with a health sciences counselor to get more specific academic guidance. And to find them, you can literally just Google SMC Health Sciences Counseling. It takes you to their page and their contact information. These are the upcoming info sessions for the nursing program and respiratory care program. We just have 2 listed here, but if you go to their webpage, they will be releasing more dates throughout the semester. Anybody interested in these majors, I highly recommend attending one of these. And then also, if you want to do nursing and you're thinking of transferring to get a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, definitely attend a nursing transfer workshop. There's a couple of them here, and that is chock full of good information. Like I could sit in on that workshop every semester and learn things. It's a lot of good information, so I highly recommend that as well. So how do you get assistance with your career and academic goals? Specifically for Career Services Center, you want to go to our website. And again, I often just start with Google. It's an easy way to get around our website. So Google the SMC Career Services Center, and on our homepage, you'll see a thing for you can click for book an appointment, or you can just call us at 310-434-4337. Those are two ways to contact us. We do not book through Coursera Connect. You can also just stop by. We're on the first floor of the Student Services building, and there's usually somebody at the front desk who can help you with booking an appointment. So that's specifically for career. And for academic counseling, I do find I feel like their website changes a lot because their services do change seasonally depending on the busy seasons. They kind of maybe don't schedule appointments all the time and do more drop-in. So I do recommend going to their webpage by going to the homepage, clicking on student support, and then going on counseling services, because that's going to give you the overview of all the services they offer. And in the General Counseling and Transfer Center, you could also stop by. They're on the second floor of the Student Services building. And so that webpage is going to let you know how to contact them in different ways. Yes, you can book with them on Coursera Connect, but you can also contact them in different ways, like through QList. So if you go to that webpage, you'll learn about the different options. And plus, there are academic counselors in a variety of programs across campus. I was already telling you about the health sciences counselors, but there's tons of different programs across campus, like EOPS, Adelante, Black Collegians, veterans, athletes. They have counselors in those programs. Again, that information is on that page. So a little bit more about career counseling. What do we talk about in career counseling? This really varies from person to person. It really just is a conversation. We get to know you a little bit, see where you're at in this process, see where we can be of help to you. And you don't even need to know where to start the conversation. Don't worry about that. It's really just, you don't have to have an agenda when you come in. It's just good to talk to a career counselor because we can help you kind of figure out things that you could be doing to, achieve your goals. Some things we might talk about specifically for health and wellness is a health career right for you? It's really good to stop and think about this, because a lot of people start out like in nursing because they've heard that it's a good job, that they can make a lot of money, but nursing really truly isn't for everybody. And it's a good thing to stop and think about what makes this a good choice for you. And so here's just some examples of questions questions I might ask to help you to understand if a health career is right for you. And in career counseling, we like to walk with you through the career development process, which involves exploring your options out there in the world of work, learning about yourself, and then we bring those two things together to help you get focused, making a career decision, making a decision about a major, and then starting planning, like what kind of experience do you need to get, and all of that good stuff. So it's a process, and part of it is exploring your options. So here is a list of the health and wellness majors we offer at SMC. There's registered nursing, respiratory care, nutrition and dietetics, kinesiology and athletic coaching, medical office administration, and we have some non-credit programs, which include our Certified Nursing Assistant program, CNA, and Home Health Aide. These are really fantastic programs. And because they're non-credit, you're not getting charged for the units, meaning the units are free. There are some costs associated with the program, but it is a very low cost program compared to others out there, like offered at private schools. So I'm not going to go into detail about these programs, but I highly recommend them. And I do have to point out that they're not available to F1 visa students, unfortunately, these non-credit programs. And then the rehab, so the CNA and the home health aide can both lead to certification. At the end of those programs, you can take an exam to become certified. And then the rehab therapy aid and the intro to working with older adults, they're a little different kind of programs. They're very low units, and they're really intended for you to explore careers. And at the end of those programs, you may decide to pursue additional education to get into those fields. And now moving on to the medical office administration. This is for people more interested in the administrative side of healthcare, wanting maybe to work in an office setting. And our programs are offered under office technology in the computer science and information systems department. So the associate degrees we offer are medical administrative assistant and medical coding and billing. And then we do also have these 8 certificates that are part of the medical office administration department. So lots of good options there. But that's not all the choices out there in the healthcare world. There's so many more options out there. I've listed a few here that I do get asked about quite a bit, things that a lot of people are interested in. And so I can help you explore these options and figure out what it would take to get into these fields. And I use a lot of resources to help you with exploration as well. And I hopefully will get a chance to kind of give you a quick overview of those today. But bottom line is make an appointment and we can talk about it. And then a little bit about health and wellness, or STEM. So like I was saying, there's overlap between health and wellness and STEM. And that's because some health careers like doctor, physical therapist, pharmacist, physician assistant, and others, they do require that you do some prerequisites to get into these graduate programs. Most of them do want a bachelor's degree. They may not say you have to have a bachelor's degree, but really to be competitive, you most likely are going to need a bachelor's degree and some preparatory courses. And those preparatory courses, the prereqs for those programs, are closely related to STEM. Mostly they're science classes, a little bit of math. They don't all require a lot of math, some, more than others maybe, but for those of you who don't want to do a lot of math, these programs often don't require a lot of math. But anyway, if you are going to do the prerequisites for, say, med school, there's a lot of sciences. And so you could decide to be a STEM major. You could be a biological sciences major, but you don't have to. People choose to do this in different ways. So that's a whole conversation we could have, but that's a little brief overview about why, some of you may actually be under the STEM area of interest. All right, so some of the resources that I use, I'm not going to demonstrate them today, but there's explorehealthcareers.org, and this is just to kind of give you like a lot of options that are out there, just to kind of open your eyes to the possibilities. And you can search by how much schooling it takes and how much money you want to make. So that's a helpful one. And then also this community college, California Community College's Chancellor's Office, so it's cccco.edu, is great because you can search specific programs that are offered at the different community colleges. And then onetonline.org, I use this one all the time. It's just a real easy, quick way to look up occupations. Like here, the example is respiratory therapy. You can find out, how much money they make, what the job outlook is, like, are there going to be job openings in the future? Things like that. So ONET is great for lots of information. And then I have other resources I recommend, like this is a video, like to help you clarify if doctor, PA, or nurse practitioner is right for you. That's just one of the things that I have recommended in the past to help you understand how to choose. Also, that I sometimes recommend following people on social media. There's this Hey Kelly Ellen on Instagram who talks a lot about being in med school and how to get into med school. So, I have a lot of resources to share. And again, that's part of the career development process, is exploring your possibilities and, all of that exploration. And then also the learning about yourself, super important to help you to understand like what makes this a good choice for you, and also gaining experience. And we want you to make sure not to skip over these steps, and we can help you with this all along the way. So Counseling 12 is a class that we offer through the Career Services Center, taught by our counselors. And it is a great way to do that learning about yourself process. I really recommend it for everybody, whether or not you're like already 100% sure of what you want to do. It still is a helpful way to learn about yourself and what you bring to your career. It's a 1-unit class. It's an 8-week class during fall and spring. It's offered twice each fall and spring. And then it's also offered in winter and summer as a 6-week class. All right, so for those, everybody's at a different spot with this. And so I always like to give people an idea of what their next steps might be. And so next steps might be different from one person to the next. I think everybody, it would be a good idea to make an appointment, a one-on-one career counseling appointment. You could take Counseling 12. You could use some of these resources to do some exploration. And also, it's always a good time to think about how to gain experience. And both Joan and I can help with that. So I actually got through that faster than I expected, which is good. I think my practice helped me with that. And I'm ready to hand it over to Joan.
Awesome job, Jenny. I also just want to reiterate, as someone who works with the students a lot about gaining experience, I want to encourage students to not just see our career counselors when you don't know a major or you're undecided about a career path, but really to also truly see them along the process of once you've identified a major career path, because industries do change, the skills may change, right? And so it's always a learning process, whether or not you are a student or even now, there are things that are happening in our own careers that we always want to keep on top of. So I always encourage you to continue to do research on your career. Whether you want to go into nursing, med school, you want to go to OT or whatever industry, that you constantly will have access to these amazing career counselors like Jenny, who can explore that in more detail with you. But what I do as a career advisor is really truly help students gain experience. And gaining experience, and I'll share with you later on the next couple of slides, are you could do that on campus as well as off campus. I also share with students how that they could prepare for that employment process. And again, is it on campus or is it off campus? And that might be helping you prepare your resume or your CV, depending on the roles that you might have, writing a cover letter or sharing what that might entail, to critiquing it. I do a lot of networking and interviewing meetings, and so I will help prepare you for an upcoming interview with an employer, a research opportunity, a volunteer opportunity, and we'll get to practice that. And I always encourage students to keep practicing and practicing and practicing. You'll get definitely better as you get more experience. But really, I truly try to just demystify what that process looks like, right? We all think we know what it is, right? But until you're actually in that situation, it allows someone else to give you that different perspective of what an employer is looking for when you are applying for a job, a volunteer role, research, or internship search process. And so let's talk about the benefits of gaining experience. And so Jenny, if you wanted to move to the next slide, you can. Previous slide. So the previous slide, Jenny.
Oh, sorry. Did I skip one?
Yes.
Okay.
Back. Okay, awesome. So there are many benefits of gaining experience. I think truly as a student, one benefit is that it really helps you figure out if this is the career for me, right? For many of you guys who are going into a health field, a STEM field, there are a lot of classes that you have to take, right? Even to get to the actual patient care office kind of setting. And so just being immersed in that environment is going to give you some benefits, right? So not only that, you get to build your job experience, strengthen your resume, put into action the skills that you're learning in the classes, like for example, the labs that you're enrolled in, your research skills. Hopefully with the experiences that you have, you also build confidence to then network, build mentors, develop your professional network, and then hopefully open up more opportunities for jobs in the future, maybe now as a student as well as in the future 5 years from now and so forth. Let's talk about the types of experiences that you could build on campus, right? You could definitely start here on campus, and you could start off with doing some relevant coursework. You could join an organization. You can get an on-campus job, as well as you can do some independent studies. Jenny, you're off the slide.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm gonna I have to share my screen again. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. So those are some of the types of benefits that you can do here on campus, right? And so the slide that Jenny is going to present shortly is the slide that's dealing with relevant coursework, right? I usually like to encourage students to put relevant coursework on your resume. Why is that? Your coursework is the most direct related experience. Your education is the most direct related experience, especially if you haven't been in that field, right? So you knowing terminology to work in an office setting, for example, like medical coding and billing, or you knowing how to handle safety requirements in a lab, and knowing what confidentiality, or like an anatomy class, knowing body parts and or physiology, how what those movements might look like, right? You could utilize that, or the projects that you have in your classes, as experience, right? To show the employer that you have some knowledge of what that industry might entail. So if you're thinking about, should I include it? Most likely you want to include it if you have very little direct experience. And so how should I put that on a resume? Definitely schedule an appointment with us. I'm going to actually share the screen because I think Jenny might have some difficulties. So let
Oh, am I
me,
not sharing?
no, here, don't worry. I'm going to share right now.
Right. I'm back. I thought I was sharing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So from current slide.
Or do you just want me to stop share? Would you rather be in charge of it?
You could share, but you're not sharing right now. That's
It says I am, so I'm going to stop. So I think you better do it because it keeps
okay.
telling me I am.
Okay. Maybe my screen is not liking me today. Jenny, it's not liking me. Maybe it's a Zoom issue.
Can you guys let us know if you were seeing it the whole time?
As of now, there's nothing being shown. Oh, now I can see it.
Okay, well, let's keep on. I guess we'll keep going with this. Can you see it, Joan?
Okay. Can you see the slide?
I can see the slides.
Awesome. So relevant coursework, again, if you have very little direct experience, definitely include some relevant coursework or some class projects. If you're thinking about what else can I do? Join an organization, but not just join it. So if you are just a member of an organization, that's great, but get more involved, especially if it's an organization where you're just listening to projects and listening to presentations and people speak. And more like an active role, because there are some clubs that do a lot of volunteer work, and your organization does do that. So look at joining an organization, because that one is a way of gaining a sense of community, networking, advocating, sharing your voice. It's also an opportunity to build skills. I know that in the past, PHPA has invited like I think you did a basic life support workshop last year. You've done trainings and so forth that are really particular to healthcare skills and so forth. But like I said, it's a way to kind of build your experience, put it on your resume, learn more about a career field. I've listed the links to the clubs here on campus, as well as additional opportunities. I think just building your leadership skills is going to be key when you are applying for these opportunities. So on-campus employment, these are two ways that you could gain on-campus employment. Federal Work Study and Student Help. They have specific requirements. There are jobs on campus, from working in the health center to our wellness area to even just administrative roles, right? How do you work with other professionals in an office setting is a good skill to have. Another thing that I tell students is that depending on the department you're in, there might be courses that you could take that are considered independent studies, right? It's a way for you to develop some research on a specific topic. I recommend students reach out to a department chair, right? There are faculty in the different departments that offer independent studies, right? And you just need to petition. You need to create like an objective of what you're trying to do. What are the goals and activities? And so forth. And then just talk to your academic counselor to make sure that is within your ed plan. So I've listed department chairs as well as academic departments here on campus if you're looking at that. Finally, for most students, they're like, I want to build some experience off campus, right? I do want to let you know, for those F1 international students, off campus work is something that you are restricted on. And so there are some things where you're allowed to do. There's a procedure that you need to qualify for. So just make sure that you reach out to the IEC for more information, and not to volunteer or to do part-time work, internship, or research without their approval, right? And so thinking about at the smaller scale, some students are getting a part-time job, right? Whether it's working for an office or working at a restaurant, those are all skills that are going to be important, right? And it shows your level of professionalism, your experience in a non-student related position. And so if you're looking at where to find jobs, Hire SMC is the platform here at SMC that you could find some off-campus as well as on-campus jobs, right? We have a job fair coming up on October 5th. That falls around the 11 to 1 period. It's on campus. There's going to be employers there. So if you're just looking for a job, right, they'll have some employers there. You could also schedule an appointment with the Career Services Center to then kind of do more of a one-on-one process of looking for jobs. For many of you guys, I would say is that you're going to do a lot of volunteer work, right? Because the course load that you have, your major requires like 5-unit courses, 4-unit courses, right? And you're spending a lot of time here on campus. You might not have the availability to do a 20-hour job per week, but volunteering allows you to have some experience, but with less hours. And so typically volunteer hours are about 4 to 6 hours, at least for the hospitals and clinics. I've listed probably the top 5 places that most students here in the at Santa Monica College kind of go towards. They all are great. There are pros and cons to each, right? Some provide parking, some don't, some provide meals, some provide the vaccinations for you, some require that you have to have them upon application, right? Some have year-round applications, some have rolling, some might have a specific date that you need to go to be able to qualify, or you have to wait the following year. Right. And so I always encourage students to reach out to us to see which one might work for you. There are some that are really patient directed, some that are more administrative, some are on the pre-med route where you get to shadow physicians, right? And so I tell students, look at these options, see what fits you. Don't just go based on what other students are saying, but really truly investigate what's going to meet your needs. Also think about hospice places, nursing homes, mobile events, because those are also opportunities to gain experience. But again, these are places that students have volunteered at the past, and just to do your own research. As far as research and internship goes, right, there's opportunities to do research, right, working in a wet lab, for example, in healthcare, right? And so the main difference is research is typically to address an idea, to gain some thought and knowledge of it, versus an internships typically. So research is usually academic or like facilities that like you think of like a lab situation, right? But internships could more or less be they're private organizations. Most of them also require that either you get academic credit on the healthcare side of things. But I would say both of them are great resources. And again, it depends on the industry that you're going into. Research typically also happens more so in the summer versus internships they might have some year round. I do want to talk about the internship program in general here at SMC. It is a program that does not find your internships for you, in the sense that we don't plug you into an internship position. It is more so that it allows students to get academic credit for it. And so again, that employer might say, I need you to have academic credit. This is one of the ways that you would get it, either through the Career Services Center, or if you wanted one specific to your major. They offer anywhere between 1 and 4 units, depending on the number of hours. I tell students, know how many hours that you can do. Don't just enroll in any class, because then you won't be able to fulfill the requirements of that class, right? And that might prevent you from enrolling in the future. And again, international students need to have eligibility. And we don't just accept any student in the internship program. You have to have at least completed 6 units in the prior term. And that's because we sometimes will get the students from other schools in the summertime just trying to get into the internship program. So again, want to make sure that that's an emphasis on that. If you're looking for the internship research kind of timeline, this is that time of the year. There are many opportunities for those who want to go into healthcare, public health, STEM, medicine, so forth. There's even some on like the nursing side of things, but more on the administrative, right? And so that time period to apply is actually now. So a lot of them will post positions in September, October, and they'll be due sometime between September and December. Those won't reopen until the following year, so you don't want to miss out on that. But yeah, so most of the chunks of application access, as well as the deadlines, are going to happen during the fall term. it kind of coincides also with those who are trying to transfer. It is just as detailed in terms of the application as a transfer application. So I do want you to make sure that you prepare for it. There are things like a resume, sometimes an interview, sometimes recommendation letters, or like personal statements that you need to address, right? And so make sure that you spend some time identifying positions, working with our staff here in the Career Services Center to review your resume. It could take several sessions, right? I see some students here in this meeting that have met with us before, and they've probably could again agree that's not something that happens in one session, right? Create a spreadsheet, be organized, jot down when those deadlines are and what are the things that do require. I do really want to emphasize, though, the importance of cultivating and building relationships with your faculty, your instructional faculty, because in the jobs that you're wanting to go to, and even sometimes the academic programs that you're applying to, the people who are searching or a part of that search committee are looking at your instructional faculty, those who teach those technical skills, to give a recommendation of you. Can you do this skill? Can you do that skill? How successful will you be, right? So get to know your faculty, introduce yourself, be active in class, go to their office hours and interact with them. Let them know your interest in that class, what your major is, what your goal is, and so forth, right? Build that relationship now and continue to do so even after you finish that class, right? Or try to again enroll in a class following with them. So again, that whole process here is that timeline. And then again, for some gaining experience, just start early. Work with us, the Career Services Center, to identify your interests, to explore more of your major and your career goals, right? Work with us to look for positions here on campus as well as off campus, but you definitely need to do your research, right? We can't just give you all that information. You also have a part in it, right? You might even have to contact some programs and ask them questions. For example, sometimes you want to get that information ahead of time. You could request to see if their application is going to be offered again this year. For those who are not US citizens, sometimes they actually don't list whether or not they're accepting students who are non-citizens, or if they are, right? But they want students who might identify as that to reach out to them and to see if there's any funding. So unless they specifically say the status that you have to have, reach out, see if there's an opening for you and what that opening might look like. You also want to make sure that you research the start and end dates, especially if you're trying to enroll in the internship class or if you're thinking about a summer opportunity, because not every school has the same schedule calendar, right? We end sometime in the beginning of June. Some schools start in May, right? And end in May and so forth. And so just make sure that you know those start and end dates. And again, the F1 students need an eligibility letter. The next couple of slides are a list of opportunities that students have looked into, applied to, even got into, right? A mix of them that involve shadowing, mentorship, research, internship opportunities. Some of them happen this summer, sometimes are year round, right? A lot of them are catered to community college students. And yes, as a community college student, you could start getting experience your first year here, your first semester here. So don't be shy. I encourage you to get experience now and build on it and get more comfort, get your increase your comfort level, right? There are local opportunities, right, at the institutions nearby here, as well as across the United States, right? Kite is one of our partnerships. You'll probably hear about them in the future. There is a specific internship for students at SMC, right? But majority of these are going to be open to all students, right? I saw a couple weeks ago some students who did the community college program at Stanford. Many of these programs will also say whether or not they provide a stipend, housing, transportation, whatnot, or overall general stipend, parking, and things like that. And so definitely do your research. But there are a lot of them. MedPrep and MedPrep and UCLA Prep are great mentorship programs, and so forth. So reach out again, F1 students. If you are looking at specific ones, look at the ones that have an asterisk. Those have accepted some international students. And then lastly, there's more information that we could put on these slides, right? If you're thinking about other opportunities, as well as maybe a guide to writing a resume, right? I don't expect you to have a perfect resume when you come in. I sometimes don't even have students know how to write a resume, right? feel free to utilize these resources. Feel free to say, I don't know what to do, and let us kind of help you along that way, right? Start early. And then if you specifically want to reach out to me in general and have questions, feel free to email me. I'm on campus 3 days a week, off campus twice a week, right? But I'm here 5 days a week. So I work for the college full time. And like Jenny and I, we both work in the Career Services Center on the first floor. Finally, the last slide is I do want to just share that we are going to be hosting a career panel with PHPA on November 7th. It's during your normal hours. And to register for that, feel free to click on that link. And we're going to be bringing a mix of professionals so that you can learn more about those fields. Again, here's our information. And sorry for some technical difficulties along the way, but hopefully we've been able to answer a lot of your questions. I'm going to stop share. I'm going to press the stop button, the record button, and then answer any questions.